I've always been fascinated by the powerful women in the Hebrew Bible, and today we're going to explore their stories together. These aren't just characters in ancient texts, they're complex individuals who shaped history, challenged norms, and left lasting legacies. From the first woman to queens and prophets, we're about to dive into a world where women played pivotal roles in the formation of Judaism and beyond. So buckle up, because this is going to be one wild ride through biblical history. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? Eve, the OG woman herself. Now you might think you know her story. Apple, snake, original sin, right? But, Eve's role is way more complex than that. She's not just the first woman, she's the mother of all living things. Now, fast forward a bit, and we've got Sarah. Talk about a woman who knew how to get things done. She's Abraham's partner in the whole founding a nation gig. But Sarah's not just sitting around waiting for prophecies to come true. Nope, she's taking action, even if it's sometimes morally questionable. I mean, the whole Hagar situation? Yikes. But that's what makes these women so fascinating. They're not perfect, they're human. Okay, so we've got our power trio of matriarchs, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. These ladies aren't just sitting around knitting sweaters for their kids. Take Rebecca. She's basically running a covert operation to make sure her favorite son gets his father's blessing. Sneaky? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Then we've got the sisters Leah and Rachel. Talk about family drama. These two are locked in a fertility feud that would make reality TV producers drool. But here's the kicker. Between them, they're mothering the 12 tribes of Israel. That's right. These women are literally creating a nation, and they're doing it while navigating some seriously complicated family dynamics. I mean, sharing a husband? That's a level of complexity I can't even begin to imagine. Now let's talk about women who weren't afraid to take charge. First up, Miriam. She's not just Moses' big sis, she's a prophet in her own right. When the Israelites cross the Red Sea, who leads the celebration? Miriam, that's who. She's got her own song and everything. But wait, there's more. Enter Deborah, judge and prophetess extraordinaire. This woman was the ancient Israelite equivalent of a Supreme Court justice and a military strategist rolled into one. She's out there making decisions, leading armies, and generally being a total boss. And the best part? The Bible doesn't even make a big deal about her being a woman in power. It's just like, yeah, Deborah's in charge, deal with it. Alright, let's switch gears and talk about Ruth and Naomi. If you're looking for a biblical buddy movie, this is it. We've got Naomi, who's been through the ringer, lost her husband, lost her sons, and is heading back to her homeland with nothing. But then there's Ruth, her daughter-in-law, who's like, nope, not letting you go alone. It's the ultimate display of loyalty and love. But here's where it gets really interesting. Ruth doesn't just tag along, she becomes the breadwinner, literally. She's out there gleaning in the fields, making sure they've got food on the table. And bonus fact, Ruth ends up being the great-grandmother of King David. Talk about an impressive family tree. Now let's talk about women who knew how to work the system. First up, Hannah. This woman wanted a kid so badly she was willing to bargain with God. And I'm not talking about a please, pretty please kind of prayer. Hannah goes all in, promising to dedicate her future son to God's service. Then we've got Esther, and oh boy, is her story a wild ride. You know, it's like she's in this crazy beauty pageant where the prize is becoming queen, but plot twist, she has to hide her Jewish identity. But when her people are threatened with genocide, does she sit back and enjoy her cushy palace life? Heck no. She risks everything to save her people. It's like a high-stakes poker game, and Esther's playing for keeps. And the best part? Her story is so awesome it gets its own holiday, Purim. Okay, folks, buckle up because we're about to dive into some seriously complex stories. First, let's talk about Tamar. This woman is dealt a seriously bad hand, married off to one of Judah's sons, who then dies. Then she's given to the next son, who also kicks the bucket. At this point, Judah's like, nope, no more sons for you. Now, on to Bathsheba. You might know her as the woman King David spotted bathing on a rooftop, but there's so much more to her story. Yes, David abuses his power and takes her, but Bathsheba doesn't just fade into the background. She navigates the treacherous waters of royal politics, ensuring her son Solomon becomes the next king. It's a story of survival, resilience, and ultimately, triumph. Now, let's talk about the bad girls of the Bible. First up, Delilah. You know, the one who gave Samson that infamous haircut? But, Delilah's not just some one-dimensional villain. She's a woman using the tools at her disposal in a world where she has limited power. Is she manipulative? Sure, but she's also clever, persistent, and honestly, pretty good at her job. I mean, have you tried getting a stubborn guy to spill his secrets? It's not easy. Let's shift gears and talk about some royal ladies, shall we? First up, Michal, daughter of King Saul and wife of David. Talk about being caught between a rock and a hard place. She saves David's life, defying her own father. But later, when she criticizes David's enthusiastic dancing, their relationship sours. It's a tragic story of loyalty, love, and the harsh realities of political marriages. Let's wrap up with some seriously tough ladies. Hagar, Rahab, and Dinah each face incredible challenges. Hagar, cast out into the desert with her son, becomes a survivor against all odds. Rahab, a prostitute in Jericho, risks everything to help Israelite spies and secures a place for herself in their society. And Dinah? Her story is tragic, but it sparks a conversation about consent and justice that's still relevant today. These women remind us that bravery comes in many forms, and sometimes just surviving is an act of courage. And there you have it, folks! A whirlwind tour of some of the most fascinating women in the Hebrew Bible. From Eve to Dinah, these women weren't just side characters in someone else's story. They were movers and shakers, decision-makers and game-changers. Their stories are complex, sometimes controversial, but always compelling. They remind us that history isn't just about the big names we all know. So next time you crack open the Bible, pay attention to these ladies. They've got a lot to teach us even today.
If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.